Well, hey everyone, my name is Pete Krause with Modern Cardboard. And if you've ever wanted to learn how to build a magnetic levitation rail line, underground even, we're going to learn how to do that as we learn how to play Maglev Metro. Maglev Metro is this track lane, engine building, pick up and deliver game for 1 to 4 players. It takes place in the near future where your job is to revitalize the subway system with Maglev technology. For this video, we're going to use the Berlin side of the board, and the flip side of this board is New York City, which presents a few different challenges or opportunities that you get to explore on a different game. So the goal for you is to compete against the other companies or players and build the most efficient Maglev Metro line. And of course, efficiency is measured in victory points. At the end of the game, you get 1 point for each link you've created between stations, 1 point for each pink and lilac passenger on your player board, 2 points for each coral and purple passenger on your player board, and you score points for your highest scoring card. The company or player with the most victory points at the end of the game wins. On your turn, you'll be doing things like building track to connect stations, building stations, and then picking up and delivering passengers to the station which matches their color. Once that happens, that passenger gets added to your player board. Passengers come in 2 different types: robots, which are silver, gold, and copper, and then commuters, which are painted in these pretty spring-like colors of pink, lilac, coral, and purple. So as robots get added to your player board, you can use them to build your engine to increase what you can do with your actions. You can also use them to unlock an extra action or use them to help unlock the different commuter passengers and stations. As commuters get added to your player board, they're not only worth victory points at the end of the game, but they can also be used to unlock additional actions, they can be used to unlock other commuter colors, and they can be used to increase your victory point total at the end of the game. For each row I fill here with matching passengers, that gains me 1 additional victory point per link between 2 stations. For each column I fill with matching passengers, earns me 1 additional victory point for passengers of that color. This section down here will let me score more of my cards. For each row that I fill with passengers, I can score 1 additional card. So if I had all 3 rows filled, I could score all 4 of my cards. So I think with that information, you know enough to be dangerous. So let's start looking at how we take our turn. The first player turn order marker is awarded to the player of your choice. There's no special rules around that. For turn number 1, you're just going to take your train and place it on one of the existing stations on the board. So I'm going to place mine here on the warehouse. And when you do that, you get to take one of the 2 robots that's on that place. And then since we're set up for a 2-player game, our second player, the blue player, places their train on one of the stations. And they'll go up here to the factory and take the gold robot. Now your second turn of the game is a lot more interesting. So at the beginning of the game, every player gets a gold, steel, and copper robot. And if you're playing a 4-player game, the 4th player only gets another robot of their choice. And then you also get to place the robot you just picked up after you placed your train. You get to choose where your robots go. They just have to go in slots which match the color of your robot. So I'll place the silver one here in track. I'll place the copper one here in pickup. Place the silver in drop off. And then down here, place the gold robot in build station. So you only have to place your robots at the beginning of turn 2. On future turns, you'll just take your actions and then place robots as you acquire them. So now that I've placed my robots, now I get to take my 2 actions. The actions you can take on your turn are track, move, pickup, drop off, refill, adjust, build station, and reverse train. You can take 2 different actions on your turn or 2 of the same. And for each extra action row you fill, you get to take 1 extra action on your turn. If you notice, there's already a robot placed in slot number 1 for many of your actions. So you'll be able to take those actions, you'll just be limited on what you can do at this point. The first action the orange player is going to take is the track action, and they have 2 units of track they can use. The track action allows you to either add or remove a section of track from the map. It costs 1 unit to add or remove a section of track to a hex that's land only, and it costs 2 units to add or remove a section of track to a hex that has river running through it. The first time you take the track action, track has to start from the station where your train is located. So the orange player is going to spend its 2 units of track building one here and one here. And the next time you take a track action, you'll only be able to add or remove track from either end of the line that you build. You can't have track fragmented where your train can't get to it. So when track runs to a station, you can only have one piece of track coming in and one piece of track coming out one of the other sides. You can have your track built up to a hex where a station needs to be built even before the station is there, but you won't be able to build through that station until you build the station first. Also, other players will be able to add track on top of your existing track since they're transparent hex tiles. One thing to note, like with your curved pieces of track, is there's 2 different radiuses. So if you find like one doesn't line up perfectly with your other radius, you can try another one, and usually you'll find one that fits a lot better. If I can get my guys to stay up. One other thing to note is that your track pieces are finite, meaning that if you use up all your straight track hexes, you won't be able to build any straight track hexes unless you remove one from another location and then build it in a new location. And by the way, it is possible to remove a track hex and rebuild it using the same track action. The second action Orange takes is the build station action. So at the beginning of the game, the only stations that are unlocked and available is the factory, warehouse, and lab. And then you'll unlock the commuter stations once you fill each column with matching passengers. You can build a station in any location, which are these recessed hexes that you've already built track to. So in this case, I can build in Haus Vogtei-Platz. And I'm going to place the lab. When you first place a station, you get to take the passenger that's on that station and place it immediately in a corresponding slot on your player board. So I'm going to take this copper robot and place it in the first slot of adjust. Then you get to place a station in the location. When you do that, you take any robots and place them on that station. Now, the only exception to that is if the robot matches the same color of the station. In that case, it goes in the bag. One final note on stations is when you place your first station of a commuter color, you'll place the pile of commuters next to it in the bag. The first thing blue does on its second turn, just like orange, is places its robots on its player board. So it places the steel robot in track, the copper robot in pickup, the gold robot in build station, and the second gold robot in refill station. Blue's first action is the track action, and blue has 2 units of track. So the blue player spends 2 units to place track in this river hex. The blue player's second action is the pickup action, and it's got 2 units of pickup. Each unit of pickup allows you to pick up 1 passenger and add it to your train. Now you're limited to the number of passengers you can carry in your train by your capacity. And right now the blue player has a capacity of 1, so it can only hold 1 passenger, meaning it's at max capacity right now. Now also, you can only pick up passengers that you've unlocked. So let's say there was a coral passenger here and I hadn't unlocked it yet, I wouldn't be able to pick this one up. Now, if I took the pickup action and I was already at capacity, I could choose to pick up this gold passenger, but I would have to leave behind the copper passenger. If that passenger that you left behind matches the color of your station, it would go in the bag. For Orange's first action, it's going to take the pickup action, and it has 2 units of pickup. However, it can only use 1 and just picks up this copper-colored passenger, adds it to its train. For Orange's second action, it's going to take the move action, and it just has 1 unit of move. For each unit of move, it lets you move your train to the next station on your line in the same direction your train is facing. And you can't move to a location where a station hasn't been built already. When you move your train to the last station in your line, you always keep your train pointed in the same direction as your movement. For your next turn, if there's not another station to move to in this direction, you would reverse your train and then move in the other direction. That's not to be confused with the reverse train action, which we haven't seen yet, but the reverse train action would allow you to reverse the direction of your train at any station. One thing to note is you must complete your full move action before taking another action like drop off, pick up, reverse train, etc. So for blue's first action, it's going to take the move action, and it has 1 unit of movement, and it's going to first face its train this way, now that the track is built, and spend that 1 unit of movement to move to the lab. Then blue's going to take the drop-off action for its second action, and it has 1 unit of drop-off. And for each unit of drop-off, you can drop off 1 passenger matching the color of the station. And as soon as you drop off a passenger matching the station, it gets added to your board in a corresponding slot of your choice. And blue's going to add it to capacity. Now, one thing to note, as you add more robots to your action spaces on your board, you have the option when you place new robots to add them to either the right of the existing robots or the left of the existing robots. If you add them to the left, they must match the slot that they're placed on, and then the other robots get slid to the right, but they can only slide to the right if they match the slots they're sliding to. Also, if you add a robot to your board from your first action, you get to use that advantage for your second action. For orange's first action, it takes the drop-off action and adds this copper robot to its board, and places it in this bottom slot to hopefully unlock the pink commuters and station. Orange then takes the adjust action for its second action, and it's got 2 units of adjust. Each unit of adjust allows you to move 1 robot to a corresponding slot on your board. Orange spends 1 unit of adjust and moves this steel robot to unlock the pink commuters and station. If you move a robot from an unlock spot back to an action slot, you would immediately place any passengers of that color on your current station. You could also move robots to the extra action slot. For instance, if you moved enough robots to fill this slot, you could then take an extra action. Blue takes the refill station for its first action, and it has 2 units there for refill station. Each refill station unit that you have allows you to draw 1 passenger from the bag and place it on your current station. And a station can hold up to 8 passengers, not counting the ones that are already in your train. If you draw a passenger of the same color as your station, just set it aside and continue to draw. When your refill action is finished, put those passengers back in the bag. Then blue's going to take the pickup action for its second action, and notice it has 2 units in pickup and then 2 units in capacity. So if we go back to the map, blue picks up both steel robots and places them in its train, and it can do that because it has a capacity of 2. By the way, you can look in the bag at any time to see the color and quantity of passengers in there. However, you just have to make sure you draw at random when you take the refill action. Alright, so going back to the orange player, for its first action, it's going to take the track action and places 2 sections of track, and spends 1 unit to place this section of track, and then spends another unit to build this section of track between the warehouse and the lab. For orange's second action, it's going to take the build station action, and since orange has already unlocked the pink passengers and station, orange is going to build a pink station, which is called an office, in the Spittelmarkt. And orange gets to add this pink passenger to its board. And then since the first pink station has been built, we're going to place these commuters in the bag. Normally, players can only score 1 of these cards at the end of the game, and the card that scores is the one that yields the most victory points. And the limit to victory points that you can earn from any one card is 15. So for instance, this card awards 4 victory points for every direct connection between a lab and a studio. And this one awards 1 victory point for every gold robot on your player board. For a complete listing of what these cards do, you can go to the Bezier Games website, and they have a complete card list. Alright, so now that we've seen all the actions, let's fast forward a little bit and show how the game end is triggered. The game end is triggered when at least 1 of every commuter station is placed on the map, and that player takes the last passenger out of the bag, so the bag's empty. Players continue to play that round, and then play 1 additional round, and then score. Just as a reminder, you get 1 victory point per link between stations. You score 1 victory point for each pink and lilac commuter on your board, and then you score 2 victory points for each coral and purple commuter on your player board. Then you can see if you scored any bonuses, if you filled the rows or columns for extra victory points for commuter colors or links on your board. And then you'll score your highest card, but you can score additional cards if you filled these rows over here. Again, the player with the highest victory point total at the end of the game wins. So now that you know how to play Maglev Metro, now it's time to get a game set up and play with friends. Or you can play solo. There's a short section in the rulebook you'll need to learn first, but if you know the base rules, it doesn't take much to learn how the automated player works. So with that said, just remember to like, subscribe, help support the channel, all that fun stuff, and we'll talk to you in the next video.